Hi, I am Amber Parrington, a Director of Community Relations with Select Home Care.
And I'm Bryce Hayes. I'm the director and owner of Select Home Care.
We're here today. We want to talk a little bit about, the big topic that's going on around the country. Everyone has questions. There's a lot of unknowns in the world right now. But if we can clarify some information for you and give you some resources to help better navigate COVID.
Absolutely. So specifically, we're going to be talking about what it means to be living beyond the COVID seclusion. And why don't you jump in a little bit about what you mean by COVID seclusion?
Yeah, absolutely. With seniors, a lot of times COVID is a very scary topic. It is very unknown risk factors. They want to make sure that they're taking care of themselves and staying safe. So a lot of times seniors will seclude themselves in their home and try to limit exposure by going into public as much as possible.
And I think that's a lot of what we hear is this idea of, obviously masks are really important, right, but going that extra step where it's like, well, I don't need a mask if I'm not seeing other people, right? And so how do they, it's better to play it safe than sorry and to completely isolate, which on the one hand, in terms of catching COVID, is probably safe, but in terms of, mental and emotional abilities, that can be very damaging for a senior, similar to how, any other depression or anxiety or any other withdrawal method would be for a senior.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want this to be the new normal for seniors. So there's a lot of things that we can help with and educate on to help make that, if they choose to be secluded for health reasons, things that we can do to help them along that process to make their quality of life just better.
So let's actually talk about how to fill that socialization void, right?
Right.
So they know they need to be safe. They know that they need to, limit their exposure to other people. How can they still get the socialization that they need?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is very important, if families are limiting their visits with seniors right now and their family, that we really want to still connect that void. The families are very important to everyone. So I think FaceTiming, Zoom, Skype, I think that is very important still to have that at least, visual connection with family. Technology is hard.
That was going to be my next thing. Is I'm picturing my grandfather who he has an iPad, but solitaire is about as good as we get on the iPad. Now my grandma, on the other hand, very very good at the FaceTime, very very at the FaceTime. I'm turning into my grandparents here on this one, but very good at using some of those tools. But for seniors that maybe aren't as comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. How do you then take that next step? How do you then help them to be able to still engage in that face-to-face contact?
I think the big word is assistance. I don't want anyone to feel like they shouldn't ask for help. One thing that we offer, and that's really important to us, is we have caregivers that will help them. They will set that technology up with them and actually be there with them during the whole experience, mm-hmm. whether it's to hold the computer or hold the iPad or mm-hmm. phone, make sure the connection is there the whole time. Make sure, that she's maybe understanding if she needs to help repeat something that the other family member said. If there needs to be a privacy aspect, our caregivers are more than happy to set it all up in an area that's what maybe foolproof. Yeah. That there could be that privacy, then the caregiver would step out until it was time. And, because that's important as well. You just never know what the conversation is going to be about. But that assistance is always there. And it's important because these resources should still always be there.
And, one of my other favorite things about, having that assistance, I think about pre-COVID, right? One of the things that we saw, especially with out-of-state families, because now everybody's an out-of-state family. Yeah. The other state is just your house, even if it's just a few blocks away. But, often we saw with out-of-state families that one of their big concerns were, how do I socialize mom or dad when they're at home, they don't have contact to too many people. That same assistance that we're talking about in using FaceTime can also be used just to help them get a bit of a social life. And, while a caregiver isn't necessarily going to be, setting up play dates like you might with a child, having an extra person who comes into the home, I really think is an extra chance to get conversations going, an extra chance for a person to hear stories, an extra chance for a person who might otherwise not have a lot of contact to get a conversation going.
Right.
Tell me about a time where you've seen, that companionship really be important for a senior.
I think a lot of times what happens is, like you explained, there's that physical being and being in the same room as someone and playing cards, or helping knit, quilt, even helping cook a meal. It can become a bonding experience. So I know seniors a lot of times need just a conversationalist in their life.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that companionship in real life too.
Yeah.
We try to take really great lengths in learning a lot about our seniors and making sure that that's a quality time we're having with them, that it's not maybe always a fact-finding mission like they're just meeting each other, but helping setting up our caregiver to go in as if they already know our senior, and it makes our seniors way more comfortable, that they don't have to prompt that conversation a lot, but just spending one-on-one time with them, in a quality way is very important.
And I think with that, sometimes the discovery is really helpful, and sometimes that discovery can be anxiety inducing, right?
Yeah.
And so, in fact, I was just talking to a patient about this recently where, we knew that we needed to get them help, and their traditional caregiver was unavailable. And so the question became, what becomes more important at that point, right? Do you need the socialization? Do you need the extra person to be there? Do you need help with all those things that person only helps you with? Or is the anxiety that can come from having somebody new more hurt than help? And so I think that it's really important for families and individuals that need the care to play that scenario out in their head, right? Is it going to be a help or a hurt? And I think at least what we find typically is that sometimes it can be a bit of both, right? But ultimately, you want to build that relationship. So especially if they don't currently have a pillar like that in their life, it's a question of how do you get a pillar like that into their life to help them feel like themselves, right? Help them feel like they have that ability, that sounding board to rediscover who they are on a regular basis and get back to that center point.
Right.